the first and foremost to benefit are the politicians. I don't know how many of you are aware, but an EU MP makes around 10,000 euros a month. And I'm not even adding the other privileges. I'm not even adding the perks and benefits of being an EU MP, the type of circles that these people spin around in, the type of favors that get exchanged, the type of parties and places they get to travel to. And so it's a lot of money just per one person. It's a lot of money. And they want to keep that money. They don't want to lose that money. And so they have to clench to that seat. The moment they lose the seat, and this is often in politics, chances are they may never regain it. Sure, elections come once every 4 years, but there is this thing where if you lose one election, chances are you may never win. And so politicians are absolutely terrified of losing their seats because they lose access to all that cash. And so when they get immigrants, they realize that immigrants overwhelmingly and predictably they vote left-leaning. This is not something up to debate. It's just how insurance companies can predict with rough accuracy how many cancer cases there are going to be next year. The same way there are experts that can predict how immigrants are going to vote. And obviously, the first generation immigrants, if they don't have citizenship, they may not vote, but their children will overwhelmingly vote left leaning. And they have more children usually than the native population, and so the math stacks into the favor of the politicians. But even without the voting, immigration allows for hate speech laws, rules that would have never been passed if it wasn't for immigration. I mean, before this, in Western Europe, the idea of hate speech was something unthinkable. It was a Soviet invention. Like the Soviet Union at the UN, they're the ones that coined the expression hate speech, and they're the ones that pushed for it. And at the time, it was America and its allies that was against it. But with immigration, you can always just crack down on the native population, and you usually crack down against ideas that favor your political opponents. So if you look at how hate speech started, it's like, oh, well, we need to be more polite. You can't say the word retarded. You can't say the word N-word. But then it elevated and it escalated to the point where it's now policing entire political concepts. So politicians have a lot to benefit. Financially, especially. I mean, everything is about money at the end of the day. But it's also about the power, right? Like they manage to keep their seats, which means they keep getting access to other politicians, to favors, to parties. And so they have a direct incentive for immigration not to stop. The second group of people are the bureaucrats. The people that are in the civil service, for example, in the UK, the middle managers of government, the technocrats. The reason they have to benefit is because they benefit from the status quo. Usually, when a different political party takes place, they want to put their guys in middle management. And so when the government changes, when you have like new politicians, they don't really care about how competent the people that were before. They have favors that they need to exchange. And so a lot of people help them become politicians, and those people may have daughters and sons and cousins, which require jobs in the government. And so they will ask, well, what does your kid know what to do? And it's like, well, he's really good with statistics. And so like they will fire someone that was working at the government for the last 8 years, and they put your kid in charge, right? It's pretty much how politics work. And so all of the people that are technocrats, they are aware of this. They know the system. And so their interest is to maintain the status quo, is to maintain the same people in power. Because their financial wallets are dependent on that. Now, a third group of people that many do not bring up and probably do not even know that they benefit are the lawyers. The lawyers, they have now $1 billion industry, literally centered around migration. You gotta understand, when you deport an illegal migrant, like someone that doesn't have legal reasons to be in a country, you magically create a house. Like if you deport an illegal family, all of a sudden there's a new house on the market. You magically open up a job. You magically clean the streets and the parking lots of one car. No other piece of legislation can do this, right? Like nothing else where you sign a piece of paper and you just like materialize a house in the ether, right? Like constructing a house can take years, but deporting a person just like instantly puts a house available on the market. But there is a problem with this, right? And that is the fact that when an illegal gets deported, there are NGOs. And those NGOs, they buy lawyers. And so like a lawyer now has a job. He's got a case to work, right? He wants to prevent the immigrant from getting deported. Another lawyer may actually work for the government, and he does want the guy to get deported. But like regardless of what it is, it's like now it's a case. There is money to be made. And it's taxpayer money on both sides of the issue. Like this is what's funny, right? The lawyer that's trying to deport the person, he is being paid by the government. The guy that's trying to prevent the guy getting deported is being paid by an NGO, and if you go up the line, it's still taxpayer money at the end of the day that not only pays that lawyer, but also pays the NGO. So it's like a grift from top to bottom. We actually saw this recently in the United States, not about immigration, but a different topic. The Southern Poverty Law Center was funding the KKK, right? Because the Southern Poverty Law Center wanted censorship. And so in order to create censorship, they had to create the fear, right, that racism exists. Racism cannot exist in a society that's not multicultural and doesn't have immigrants. And so, like, again, like the justification is for crackdowns, for censorship. And the SPLC was paying the KKK. And who was paying the SPLC? USAID, apparently. And who was paying USAID? The government. It wasn't directly USAID. It was like through another NGO, right? Like they usually make several NGOs so that it's actually harder for journalists to track. But the reality is it's taxpayer money all around. Who else benefits? Well, the hotel owners in some cases, or the construction workers in others. Having a hotel is a very difficult business because there are times of the year, usually during vacation, where you have guests and you have customers. But then there are other times of the year where the hotel is kind of empty. And so what if the government just tells you, hey, house immigrants in the hotel and we will pay you for every single room you fill. And all of a sudden you don't really care about like providing the best services, right? Like if you're a 5-star hotel, you don't have to hire chefs to make gourmet meals, to make sure that the internet connection is the fastest one available. No, like you gotta do the bare minimum because your customers aren't the immigrants, right? Like your customer is the government, and the government pays no matter what. Like government doesn't really care if the cleaning lady clean the rooms every single day. Like they care if the rooms are somewhat livable. And so like the hotel owners, right? Like they absolutely profit from this. And while you talk about the hotel owners, it's also most corporations, right? Like if you own a supermarket, why would you want the people that are being willing to work for minimum wage to get deported? Because if the people that are willing to work for minimum wage get deported, you end up with people that want to work above minimum wage. So what, are you mentally retarded to support deportations? Like, of course not. Right? And there were like entire supermarkets in the United States when Donald Trump got office that got rounded up by ICE. And Americans were horrified. It's like, oh my goodness, you know, what will happen? Who is going to work at the supermarket? And I suppose in a country of 360 million people, you literally cannot find anyone that will work at a supermarket. No teenager ever, like no American teenager when he was 16 or 18 wanted to work at a supermarket. It just doesn't happen. Yeah, so like the business sector, right? They profit. Sometimes the law enforcement agencies, you can make the argument, right? Because the law enforcement agencies, they require crime in order to justify their income, right? Like in order to get a higher budget from the government, they need to show that there is a problem. So like there's too much crime, we're understaffed, we need more. Okay, and then the government looks at the statistics, and if they genuinely are understaffed, well, they give them a bigger budget. Now, here's the interesting thing, right? If you're a law enforcement officer, what would you rather do? Police people over the internet, knock at an old lady's door at 5 a.m. in order to arrest her for Facebook posts? Or would you actually rather go in a dangerous neighborhood where there's gang activity in order to stop a drug trafficker? Like, all these hate speech laws are creating some of the cushiest, nicest, most easy jobs that law enforcement has ever had. Like, there are entire departments at modern nations' police stations that have people that call themselves cops, but they never put themselves in danger. They never actually stop any crime that is meaningful, right? Because, like, the hate speech usually doesn't affect citizens. The hate speech affects politicians, because like the hate speech helps the politicians that are against the establishment win elections, but they don't make your neighborhood more dangerous. Like, hate speech doesn't actually cause you to be afraid to walk with your daughter at 8 p.m. Now, of course, there are other cases where you have threats. Right, like threats are not hate speech. Like someone just threatening you and stuff, that does cause a level of concern, right? But that was already illegal before the hate speech. No, like the hate speech in particular is one of the most insidious things that have happened in Western societies, and it actually does benefit law enforcement, because they would much rather arrest the 16-year-old teenager that's being edgy on Reddit than they are to actually go out and stop drug traffickers or human trafficking or anything like that. Other groups of people that benefit are the journalists. Like, the journalists benefit a lot because the quality of journalists nowadays is incredibly poor. Like, compared to the past, where you would actually enjoy reading a think piece or a thought piece by some publication. The current ones are absolute trash. Like, they're garbage. People don't read a lot of these newspapers, and this is why they don't even have subscription anymore, except for a few. And so the question is, like, where do they get money from? Because they're not getting it from advertisers. And the answer is from NGOs. Like, when USAID was cut, a lot of journalists got fired. Why? Because USAID was actually paying other NGOs that were funding journalistic outlets. And so the politician, the leftist politician, needs to tell the counterproductive argument that diversity is our strength, to remind people what's politically correct to say and what's not, to control the culture. And in order to do that, they need journalists. Now, they can't buy the journalists directly, unless you're the UK and you have like the BBC, which is pretty much like your bitch boy go-to journalist. But in America, for example, right, like they can't really flat out buy a newspaper. Like, for example, the US President Donald Trump, right? Like, he can't subjugate a paper. And even if he were to be able to do it, people wouldn't trust it, right? It would be like Russia Today, I guess. But what they can do is use taxpayer money, launder them through NGOs, and eventually they get into the pockets of journalists. And so you have people that don't think a lot, but they know how to parrot the correct ideas and opinions, and they get hired. And you can see that these people do not survive in the free market. Like, there are certain journalists, for example, Tucker Carlson, right? I personally don't like Tucker Carlson, but I am forced to admit that he is talented at what he does. Why? He gets fired from Fox News, he starts his own Twitter channel, and he's got millions of subscribers, right? So, like, Tucker Carlson is not starving. Like, Tucker Carlson can apply his trade, and he can still do journalisming, even if it doesn't work at Fox News. Meanwhile, there are other journalists that, if they get fired, nobody subscribes to them. Nobody listens to them. Nobody is interested in what they have to say, right? The only reason that they were interested It's because they worked at a station, which was paid by the government. And so again, like, their incentive is to make sure that the people in power remain in power, because otherwise they can't have a job. They know this, by the way. Like, they're not stupid. They know where the money is coming from. They understand. And those that don't, well, they're probably hired specifically because they don't understand a lot. But they say the correct talking points. And I could go on. Like, I can make a video like this that would span 4 hours, just talking about, you know, why the leftist governments remain in power. And the reason is because a lot of people benefit from it. Like, the incentives are to keep the status quo. This is not just because, you know, it's like, oh, we're being puppeted by Israel or some shit like that. Like, even without Israel, if Israel didn't happen, I still think we would be in the same situation, because the way things work is that when someone has a bad idea, which is Angela Merkel, right? And the reason she had the bad idea is because she was losing elections to another party. She said this herself. She was losing elections. She was becoming unpopular, right? And so she opened the border in Germany for immigration. And she offered them money. Like, she literally bribed people to go there. And once people went there, all of the incentives that I've mentioned before became obvious, right? Like the NGOs that were moving people from point A to point B. Well, they realized they now have a job. The journalists that were writing think pieces, well, now they realize they have a job. The politicians, they realize, oh, so we can keep getting votes? Like, even if we do incredibly damaging things, like, for example, destroying Germany's energy sector, people will still vote for us just because we're importing new people that never know how Germany used to be and they can't make a comparison. Holy shit, like, that's amazing. And so the possibility of censoring the opposition, the justification to raise taxes, like, whenever you raise taxes, the politicians also increase their wages. So when you look at it this way, right, once it pops, you just can't stop. Fortunately, however, nothing lasts forever. And the situation is unsustainable. The only thing that keeps the grift going is taxpayer money. Like, people are literally funding this, whether they like it or not. Many of them don't like it. But the reality is, if you happen to work in the UK, you are funding Keir Starmer. Like, you're literally paying for Keir Starmer's policies. The entire censorship apparatus, the entire grift, everything is paid by you if you're a British citizen. But you don't make infinite money. Right? Like, you're not a billionaire. And at some point, you're going to be taxed so much that you're not going to go to work anymore, because it's not profitable. Like, you're going to realize, okay, if I stay home, I make the exact same money as if I go to work. In other words, zero. And when that happens, the system collapses. And it doesn't matter what ideology the politicians have. It doesn't matter what they want. If they cannot afford to pay for the censorship apparatus stops existing. Once the censorship apparatus stops existing, then normalcy reasserts itself. The British people aren't abnormal. Neither are the Europeans. It's just that the censorship apparatus keeps them from expressing themselves. And as we saw with the Soviet Union, as we saw with many other nations, the moment that people are literally allowed to say what they want, the system crashes. And it's going to happen at some point. When? I don't know. I think like for the next decade, probably not, because Britain is wealthy enough to keep going. But if you look at the standard of living, what it's now compared to what it used to be 5 years, compared to what it used 10 years, it's bad. It's bad. And a lot of people also said, well, yeah, but like, it was better under the European Union. Yeah, but if you compare it to how Britain was before the European Union, it was even more better then. Right? So, like, Britain had a lot of politicians that, despite the fact they left the EU, they wanted to maintain the EU policies because, again, the incentives are for them to maintain it. If you look at a politician as an ideologue, as a person that has a political will, sometimes yes, sometimes no. But if you look at a politician as a guy that has a job, is kind of operating it like a business, and he wants to keep making money, and he wants to project power and influence, then you start to understand a lot of the decisions that the politicians are making. Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.